What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of District Baseball. We got a jam-packed episode for you today as we continue on with ranking season. Today we are tackling first base and talking about all the heavy hitters around baseball with some newcomers that you might not expect or you might have forgotten that had a pretty good season last year. So excited to dive into that. But first, Trey, what's going on?
Nick, we had some Hall of Fame votes that came through finally, and we've got 3 new Hall of Famers, so we wanted to shout them out at the beginning of the episode. Todd Helton, who is a first baseman himself, as well as Joe Mauer and Adrian Beltre. So congratulations to all 3 of those guys. We had Billy Wagner, who just came up just short. Hopefully he'll get in on his 10th year on
You
the
should have
ballot.
already gotten in, but
We agree. We agree in that sense, but at least we got 3. I'll take it. But yeah, we're going to be focusing on first base. And we have a pretty interesting list. Like Nick said, we have an interesting newcomer that will shake up the top of the list. But the number one choice, I think, is pretty obvious heading into this year. Although maybe a couple guys below him would give him a run for his money. But in our opinion, Freddy Freeman is the best first baseman in baseball, coming off of a season in which he had 8 F-WAR. He's getting into his mid-30s now. This is kind of insane how he keeps getting better. He did everything right. He hit for power, hit for average. He got on base. He played good defense. He's a great base runner as a first baseman. 23 stolen bases as a first baseman. That's just crazy to me. Freddie Freeman. He's the best. I don't think you can really say anything else.
Yeah, we don't have to talk too much about this. We started at 1 because that was kind of the obvious choice in my mind, and I think 2 and 3, maybe 2 to 4, we will talk about altogether because they're pretty interchangeable. But 1 was pretty obvious. It's Freddie Freeman. This is a guy last year who could have won MVP almost any other recent year. In the NL. Is just Ronald Acuna had an insane season. Mookie Betts was right there with him, for the majority of the year. And obviously Mookie and Freddie being teammates, it kind of just took away some votes. But I think it was pretty conclusive that it was going to be Ronald's. Needless to say, Freddie Freeman doing this age 33 season, he's not showing any signs of slowing down. It's incredibly impressive what he's been able to do and how consistent he's been able to be throughout his entire career, basically. And it's a real shame that any team would just let Freddie Freeman go like that. I couldn't really fathom a team letting the best first baseman in baseball walk away for a very reasonable contract to not a division rival, but a league rival. It just wouldn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I'm looking 2 spots down the list at that team's first baseman.
Yeah, listen.
Not a bad consolation prize of 54 homers last year.
It's also kind of crazy that last year was Freddie Freeman's highest F-WAR season.
I know, his best year. His best year of his career. It's crazy.
Again, not that it's crazy the numbers he put up. They are, but for Freddie Freeman, they're not. But it's just it's age 33. Mm-hmm. He's aging like fine wine.
I know.
He is.
It's crazy.
We talked about Hall of Fame. I think he's right there. Let me look up what his career WAR is, but it feels
he's already getting there too.
Yeah, all right. So 55. That's about where I thought he was. 55.7. So he needs basically one more season like he had last year. Yeah, and that gets him to the 60s. And then if he tacks on a couple WAR a season for the remainder of his career, he's basically at 70, which, even if he finishes his career at 63, I think he's still a Hall of Famer.
If any player that gets to 70, I feel like, if there's no, steroids or cheating or something like that, should probably be in. That's a career that's a crazy career for anybody.
Yep.
So yeah, Freeman's probably gonna make the Hall of Fame. Good for him.
I would agree. All right, let's move on to a couple other guys that are either on the Hall of Fame track or arguably already there. Like I said earlier, we're going to kind of talk about 2, 3, 4 all at once. because I do think for all intents and purposes they are interchangeable. This is kind of like the tier, so tier 2 of first baseman. Number 2 we have Bryce Harper. And before anyone loses their minds, Bryce Harper is officially shifting to first base this year. He also played first base last year and was kind of decent at it defensively. So if you're going to be like, oh, well, Bryce is going to be, Adam Dunn over at first base, that's not the case. Like he might not be, league leading in defensive runs saved at first, but like he is more than adequate at first base. So much so that the Phillies literally decided to move on from Rhys Hoskins, who was like beloved in that city, in that organization, because Bryce was so adequate at first base. So obviously being a 2-time MVP and being who Bryce Harper is, I'm going to put him at 2. I think in some extreme cases, and maybe even after this year, you could argue Bryce might be the best first baseman in baseball. But, I do concede that the sample size of him at first is still small. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm perfectly comfortable having Bryce at 2, which you and I both did. Number 3, Matt Olson. Again, this is one that I don't think needs to be talked about too much. Matt Olson, phenomenal year last year. I think I talked about it on the show that Matt Olson was my MVP pick 2022, and then he sucked. And then I kind of just he was dead to me. And then he turned out to have a great 2023 season, so I couldn't even properly take my victory lap. So that sucked. You and I both had him 3, and then I had Paul Goldschmidt 4. You did not have him 4. So I would like you to elaborate on that. But I do think if people wanted to put Paul Goldschmidt 2, I think that's a very fine argument. He was still solid last year. He's just a little bit on the older side. So part of this is, part projection into 2024 and how we kind of see it playing out. I think Paul Goldschmidt's going to be fine, but I don't think he's going to be in that MVP consideration. I mean, he won MVP last year, or year before last now, but recent MVP, I don't think he's going to do that again, but I also don't think we're just going to write him off and have him fade into the sunset either. So Bryce Harper, Matt Olson, Paul Goldschmidt, what are your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, well, so I agree. I think any of those players interchangeably right now in the 2, 3, 4. However, I'm adding my 5th spot in that as well. I say 2 through 5 is interchangeable because I got Yandy Diaz a little bit higher because I freaking love Yandy Diaz. But
yeah, I don't know about that one, but go ahead. I'll let you say your piece.
So for Bryce and Matt Olson and Goldschmidt, right now I think the sample size argument is strong with Bryce. We just have to wait and see how he does it there in a full season. And it's also worth mentioning he hasn't played a full season in 2 years. This is going to be his first, healthy coming into the spring training in 2 seasons. And the last time he was fully healthy, besides being hit in the face in that season, he won the MVP. So that's something to consider as well with Bryce. He's clearly still the same hitter. And we just have to see how he translates to the defense, which has looked pretty solid. Olson, obviously, I mentioned he had 54 homers last year. He was one of the best hitters in baseball. It's really a bummer because I used to love Matt Olson when he was on the A's, and now I can't love him anymore because he's on the Braves. But I still respect his ability and availability. He played every single game last year. So that's definitely something. Yeah, absolutely. And then Goldschmidt, yeah, he's 30. He's going into his age 36 season. That's old for any guy in MLB. But he hasn't really slowed down. I mean, I was looking at the hitting metrics from last year and the year before when he won the MVP, and they were pretty similar. So he hasn't really slowed down in the exit velocity or the hard hit percentage or the barrel rate or anything like that. So he should still be good to go for next year. But yes, I enter Yandy Diaz in that group as well. Now I might be slightly biased because I've been on the Yandy train for 3 years at this point. But he had his best season of his career. He's really funny to me. If you look at his hitting metrics, he just hits the ball as hard as he can. He doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the launch angle is. He doesn't care about that. He's just going to hit it as hard as possible and see what happens. And you know what? I kind of respect the ball go burr mentality there. But also his ability to walk at a high rate is definitely coveted as well. Pretty poor defender over there, but I'm not really too worried about it with first base. I don't have any issue with him at 5 behind those other guys either. But for me, I put him, I think, at 4, just because I'm just curious to see how the aging curve affects Paul Goldschmidt. But either way, I think any of those guys in the top 5 is a good choice.
I mean, I hear you. I'm not sold on Yandy Diaz. I think, some of his underlying metrics were similar between 2022 and 2023, but the huge jump in home runs is like, is that, like, when you look at a baseball,
of course.
When you look at a baseball reference page and you see the 1 year, you're just like, what the hell happened that year?
Is that year? Is this the ceiling? I agree. I totally understand.
Yeah, he's also 32, which, like, isn't a death sentence, but sometimes there's a steep drop off age 32, 33, 34. It's not like if he was 26 and did it, you can kind of project a little bit more. But I think he's gonna be fine. I have him in my top 10 as well. I'm not putting him in that tier with Goldschmidt, let alone Harper and Olsen. But hey, you do you, man. Hey, we all have our guys.
I'm getting more aggressive in my rankings this year. I played it way too safe on my predictions last year, and it bit me. So we're going for it.
Hey, that's fine. And like you said, maybe the jump in home runs is due to just a more aggressive approach at the plate, like you said. And the numbers kind of back that up. Like his walk percentage dropped from 22 to 23. His strikeout percentage went up. But like that might have been because he's being more aggressive. You'll take a couple more strikeouts here and there if it means 13 more home runs over the course of a season.
Yep. And actually, I'll be bringing that point up later for another player as well.
Oh, well, there we go. So Yandy Diaz did come in at number 5 on our rankings. But this guy who we're about to talk about, I actually like a little bit more than Yandy Diaz, and that's Christian Walker. I think Christian Walker had an incredibly underrated year last year. He's one that really, like, if you're looking at the Diamondbacks heading into last year, you're like, oh, are we going to get the sustained Christian Walker, performance? Because in 2019, he had 29 home runs. I think most Diamondbacks fans were pretty optimistic about his future. 2020, it is what it is. He had a fine season, but then 2021, he only had 10 home runs in 115 games. So I think there was a little bit of cause for concern, and a lot of people didn't know what Christian Walker would be. So coming off a strong 2022, it was, could he replicate that? Not only did he replicate that, he improved upon it. He was phenomenal last year, 33 bombs, 103 RBIs. Obviously, the Diamondbacks went to the World Series, and he was a large part of that. But he's also a really, really good defender. And I know we're not as heavily weighing defensive metrics at first base as we did catcher or as we will some of the other positions. But when you're like a really, really good defender at first, it's noticeable, and you kind of support the entire infield that way. And if you look at one of the Diamondback strengths, it was kind of just that classic, not small ball, but like old school baseball type mentality where you just like make all the plays, put the ball in play. It's not showy.
Fundamentals.
But like fundamentals. And Christian Walker was just a big part of that, having someone super solid over there at first. And obviously they had Paul Goldschmidt for years, who was notorious for, his steady glove at first as well. So I'm a huge fan of Christian Walker. I think he could absolutely skyrocket up this list. I will point out, just so I'm not totally a hypocrite, he is also 32, which it feels way older than I realized.
Late bloomer for sure.
Right. But the power to me. Sorry, my dog just knocked over something. I was like, oh my God, I'm haunted. The power to me is a little bit more sustainable in Christian Walker's profile, because we've seen it over not 3 straight years, but 3 years with 29 or more home runs. That's a little bit more promising to me than Yandy Diaz having 1 year where he hit over 20 and then not having a year prior to that where he hit like any. So I'm much higher on Christian Walker than I am Yandy Diaz.
Yeah, I think you bring up some fair points there. I think Christian Walker is the more consistent player. He's basically, besides the 2021 season, which he missed some games with an injury.
He did.
He's kind of been like that from a 110 to a 120 WRC plus with an incredible first base defense, about 4 WAR in all those seasons. So I'll take that. That's a consistent first baseman who's going to give you power. He's going to get on base. Also, the K rate has really come down in his career. He used to strike out at like a 25% clip. He's under 20% for the last 2 seasons. That's impressive. So his plate discipline and his chase rate have gone way down, which means that this should be sustainable. I think this is probably the season you're going to see from him this year. A 120 WRC plus, great defense, probably wins the Gold Glove over there again. A good eye at the plate. That's what you want, and he's just a great veteran presence to have on that young D-backs team. I feel like they really rally around him and Ketel Marte, and now Corbin Carroll as well. Corbin Carroll is almost a veteran, even though he's so young. It feels like he's just kind of become that guy. But Christian Walker is a great presence over there as well. And I think going forward, we're just like you said, he was 32 last year. We're just waiting to see how the aging curve affects him. But right now, looks pretty good.
If I were the quick tangent, if I were the D-backs, I'm going all in on Matt Chapman or Cody Bellinger right now.
Yeah, I'd say Bellinger's because they got Suarez for third base, but Bellinger.
Oh, that's right. But one more bat is my point.
Bellinger makes them scary. They're good right now, but then it's okay, now they've got
because Walker, Marte, who's their shortstop? I feel like it was someone pretty good that I'm. Anyways, but
Perdomo actually he did have a good season.
Yeah, Perdomo had a good season, and then Corbin Carroll, Lourdes Gurriel, and you add, Cody Bellinger to that, and they added Eduardo Rodriguez, so they finally got a third starter with Gallen and who's the other guy? Why can't I?
Merrill Kelly.
Thank you. I was blanking on so many names right now. Not in midseason form right here, but yeah, it feels like
they
could
did
really
what
make
they
some
should have
noise.
done. They get to the World Series with the team that shouldn't have been there, and they say, okay, they're clearly ready. Let's spend some money.
Yeah.
It's not a hard
concept. It feels like they could spend a little bit more, and they're really set up.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Almost rooting for that. All right, moving on to number 7. Yeah, moving on to number 7 in our rankings, we have Pete Alonso. And I'm sure some people are going to get mad at us for having Pete this low. I have trouble with Pete. It feels like he should be better than he is, but it's also not like he's bad either. I have a hard time figuring out, aside from the home runs, this is going to sound so, basic, but, aside from the home runs, what does he do well? Because, his K rate is increasing, and he's not particularly good at defense. And, I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been waiting for him to truly break out. Right. I've been waiting for him to truly break out, which might be unfair because his rookie year was 53 home runs. So it's hard to expect him to get better than that. But I would have thought he would have elevated his game and whatnot. But it's some years. 2022, for instance, he hit 271. I'm okay, we're starting to creep into that, Freddy Freeman territory where now he's starting to hit for average too, right? Not sacrificing the power. Freddy doesn't hit quite as many home runs, but then last year he hits 217, and it's kind of just the overall numbers are fine. He's definitely top 10, but again, like you said, it's who are you at this point? I know you hit home runs, but is that it? Because then you're just going to be a, lower half of the top 10 first baseman to me, which is fine. Or are you going to really elevate your game? That's kind of what I'm looking for right now. And he's a free agent next year, so or after this season. So this is going to be an important year for him. And I'll be interested to see how it plays out. But I'm still trying to figure out what exactly the profile for Pete Alonso is.
Yeah, I think that's fair because he's had some seasons where you're okay, he's fine, and then other seasons where okay, he's good. I personally am in the train of thought that he's going to have a big season. He's going into his walk year, and there hasn't been progress on an extension. I feel like he's about to go off. So the underlying metrics also give me a little bit of hope for that. 205 BABIP. That's horrible luck. I mean, lowest in the league, by the way. Lowest in the league, 205 BABIP, qualified. That's horrible. I don't care what kind of player you are. That's really unlucky. So that's not helping anybody. And the fact that he still slugged 500 and he still hit 46 home runs with that kind of bad luck on the balls in play tells you that if he does get the reverse of that going into next year, which sometimes happens, you could be looking at a 150 WRC plus, and all of a sudden he's in the elite category of hitters as first baseman. But yeah, 121 isn't that crazy for a WRC plus for a first baseman. That's what he had last year. So I think it's totally cool to have him a little bit lower on the list, but I think we could be singing a different tune coming out of next year, depending on how he does in his walk year.
Yeah, and that's my point. It's like I'm not like solid on my opinion or take of Pete Alonso right now. It's very fluid. It can go one way or the other. I just need to see something.
Yeah.
If it's another one of these like kind of same seasons, nothing wrong with that, but I'm not going to put him top 5. I'm especially over guys like Harper, Olsen, some of the younger Pete's young too, but like some of the guys that aren't going anywhere is my point. And Freddy Freeman too, like he's aging. Like, I mean, all those guys.
He looks like he's 27, so he
right,
might be.
Yeah, I'm not putting Alonso ahead of any of those guys. So that's more of my point. He's a very good player. I really hope the Nats sign him next year, but I don't think he's top 5 at this moment. Until he signs with the Nats, and then he's the best first baseman in baseball.
Yeah, I only had him at 6, I think, on my list, so I didn't have him above any of those guys either.
Yeah, you and I had him at 6.
Yeah, but he could get to that level. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yep. All right, number 8. Let me clarify. We both have him at 6, but he comes in at 7 because of a tie with Christian Walker. Because I had Christian Walker 5th, that gave. And you had Yandy Diaz 4th. That gave
I had the Yandy got the boost for me.
Yeah, they both got the tiebreaker over Pete Alonso, so that's why, if you're asking at home. All right, number 8 for us, and it feels like I need to pour one out for my homie.
Your wagon brother.
Vlad Guerrero Jr., my wagon brother. What has the North done to you? It pains me. It truly pains me, because I just talked about how I've been waiting for Pete to like do something different, and I've been waiting for Vladdy to do that too. I thought after that 2021 season, I was like, man, we're in for a treat. This is going to be a multi-time, MVP award winner. I was certain.
I was right there
MVP
with you.
Over Shohei, even when Shohei was healthy, I was like, Vladdy's going to do it. And 2022 was fine, like not great, not terrible. And last year was just like, there's talks of the Blue Jays trading Vladdy, and it's just like I can't entirely blame them either. Like it's important to know or to mention that he's only entering his age 25 season, so plenty of room and time to grow, but he's going in the wrong direction in so many ways, which is ironic because his K percentage is still very, very good. It's still only 14.7. So it feels like his other numbers, his supporting numbers, should be better, not worse. But maybe we need to get back to the more selective approach where you're finding pitches to hit, not just pitches to put in play. I can't. I'm not dialed into Blue Jays. What's happening within that organization, but certainly that's what's going on with the Nats, where they're sacrificing power for balls in play, and that's just a terrible way to go about it. But it feels like this is kind of like a make or break year for Vladdy in many respects, like both for his position within the Blue Jays and for ranking purposes, like where does Vladdy rank. But I still have faith in my wagon brother, but it definitely could be better for him.
Yeah, so I almost left him off my top 10 entirely.
I know you did.
I left him in because, like you did say, he's only 25. He's very young. He still has the raw power potential. Still hits the ball very hard. All that's still there. But yeah, it was bad last year. I mean, it's no getting around it. I mean, bad relative to what we expect of him, I should say, because he still had a 118 WRC plus. That's 18% above average for the league, but that 2021 season is far in the rearview mirror at this point, and I'm not sure if he gets back to that. Was that a product of playing in a minor league park for half the season?
Probably.
Maybe it was. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, he's struggled to hit in Toronto, which is weird because it's a hitter's friendly park, especially now they moved in the fences. It should help him, but it just hasn't come through yet. So yeah, I nearly left him off, but I kept him in because the StatCast data still likes him.
Right.
And he's only 25. So still a really young player, but we need to see some kind of form from that 2021 season. Otherwise, it's getting a little dangerous. He might end up getting bounced if he has another season like this.
Yeah, this is it makes me so sad.
Yeah, I think he should strike out more. He's brought his K rate down. I think it's actually I think he should get more aggressive. Maybe that would help him.
Do the home run derby again or something.
Yeah, get that swing, find it.
Refine it. Yeah, that's what Soto went through. Soto stopped hitting home runs. He did the home run derby and then went on a tear.
Yeah.
There. You're welcome. Found your answer. All right, moving on. Number 9 on our list is Bo Naylor.
Josh.
Oh, sorry, not Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor.
The brothers on the same team as well. So
Wrong Naylor.
They're both good.
Yeah, Josh Naylor comes in at number 9 on our list. I had him 10th. You had him unranked. But
no way. Surely not.
No, wait. Sorry. No, you had him 8th.
Okay.
I was looking at the wrong person.
I was like, I definitely put him in there. I love him.
Yeah, you had him 8th, so I'll let you take this one. What do you like about Josh Naylor?
It's energy, man. He's pure energy out there. I mean, we're talking intangibles here for a second, but like, damn, does he bring it? But no, I mean, I didn't realize how great of a hitter he was. I didn't realize it. Last year he was this good too. He's been this kind of hitter. And he's a really young guy. I'm pretty impressed. I wasn't expecting this, but maybe I should have been paying more attention, because I mean, the dude hit 308. I mean, that's insane. He probably had one of the highest batting averages in the league, and he also doesn't lose much power by doing that. He's an aggressive hitter, doesn't walk a ton for first baseman, but I think that's actually helped him in the power department. He's gap to gap, not a huge home run guy, but doubles, definitely. So he's just fun. I mean, he's fun when he does something crazy. You're gonna know about it, and that's definitely something that I like. He brings the vibes to the squad, and that's an intangible effect, but something that is there. So I'm excited to see how Josh Naylor progresses as a hitter.
He took his game to the next level last year, was better in nearly every single category. Yeah, he had a couple fewer home runs, but more RBIs, more stolen bases, fewer strikeouts. He was really impressive last year. And I'm looking at his baseball reference page and 22nd in MVP voting. It's just funny that MVP voting goes down that far, but I guess it means something.
Those are always the most fun thing to do. Quick tangent on baseball reference. If you go on like former MVP voting and look at who got like the 30th place vote, it's always hilarious. Yeah, it's pretty funny to see that, but it just goes to show like he got some love for a pretty forgetful season there in Cleveland. It'll certainly be interesting to see. Cleveland's like a quick bounce back candidate. Yeah, they don't really spend money, but they produce guys at a very high rate. A lot of young talent there for sure.
A lot of young talent, and should they trade Shane Bieber and get some MLB or close to MLB ready guys, and really jumpstart that thing, that Central's still weak. So
yeah, it is.
I think they could easily find themselves back in playoff contention should these young guys continue to take another step forward. And we know how much of a pitching factory they are. So it's just like a well-rounded team with not a lot of holes. They just, outside of Jose Ramirez, and I guess Shane Bieber hasn't been that guy in a couple of years, but like they're missing the stars.
Yeah.
That star talent that everyone needs. So we'll see, but I think Cleveland could bounce back, and I think Josh Naylor and Bo Naylor would be
the brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun to watch them for the full season.
Reasons for that bounce back. All right, rounding out our list, number 10 is Nathaniel Low of the Rangers. He actually dead tie with Tristan Casas of the Red Sox, who Trey had at 10. Trey had at 9. I had Low at 9. We both had the other ones unranked. So the tiebreaker goes to Low because he had slightly better WAR last year than Casas. But to me, honestly, they're pretty interchangeable. I think Casas is younger, but I think they're very similar profiles. Low, I'm almost seeing a little bit of Christian Walker-ish in him. Where I think the best is yet to come with him. Early in his Texas Rangers tenure, it's kind of like, all right, promising. And then last year was like the home runs really dipped, but he was almost better in some respects, timely hitting and things like that. But the overall slash line was like a little bit lower. So I'm kind of fumbling over my words. It's kind of just one of those guys where you're trying to figure out what he is at this point. And because he's 27 and has a few years under his belt, I was like, okay, all right, we're probably going to see something age 28, 29. In theory, those are anyone's best seasons, or like in the middle of best seasons. So I'm thinking on that team that just won the World Series, there's going to be a lot of teams and pitchers that don't pitch to Seager, don't pitch to Semien, or whatever it may be. It feels like Low is primed to really kind of get back to those stronger power numbers and really take a step forward. Again, I like Tristan Casas' name too, but I have more of a sample size with Nathaniel Low, so I have him slightly ahead for right now.
Yeah, so I had Low as my number 11. He was right on the outside.
Yeah.
The thing that he kind of reverted back to his old hitting style, which is not bad, I should say. High walk rate, gets on base, 114 WRC plus. Mm-hmm. I was just disappointed because in 2022 he got so aggressive and it really helped him increase the power and increase the homers, and I was kind of disappointed not to see that. But regardless, if he's between a 114 and a 125 WRC plus for the rest of his tenure, that's fine. But he's also only 20. He was only 27, so he could still have a great year, and he could get back to that 141 WRC plus he had in 2022. So that is just that he came back to that. I really thought that the aggressive hitting style was gonna be something good for him, and it was, and it just kind of he didn't continue with that. I'd like to see him continue with that. Maybe they wanted him to be an on base guy more because of the people in the lineup. There's a lot of guys that can drive in runs, so maybe that's a philosophical thing for the Rangers organization. I don't know, but either way, I'd like to see him get a little bit more aggressive at the plate.
It's funny, though, because and we don't know for certain, but if that was their philosophy, he had a 357 on base in 2021, 358 in 2022 with the increase in home runs, and then he had a 360 last year with the decrease in home runs and power. So it's like I would trade 2,000ths of a percentage of on base for 10 more home runs and 40 more points in average, so we don't know for certain, but it's just kind of funny that his on base, he gets on base, he just gets on base,
he does,
but
regardless of how he's hitting, he's getting on base.
The power has kind of fluctuated, so we'll see what 2024 has in store for him, but I'm pretty bullish on him. Did you want to touch on Tristan Casas real quick?
Really young guy, just came up and had his first season and improved tremendously throughout. That's really the difference for me, is that he kept getting better. And he's a great hitter, absolute beast of a human being, by the way. He's huge, so I would hope he has some raw power in there somewhere. But really good hitter, and I think he's going to be a great player for the Red Sox for years to come.
I agree. It started off really rough. And
yes, definitely.
I think it was very public with how rough it was there for a while. But he really turned it on towards the end of the year to the point where I think, again, I'm not plugged into Red Sox Twitter or the organization. It seems like the owners aren't either. But I think Tristan Cassis is going to be fine. I don't know that he's ever going to be the star that they're looking for, but I mean, if he's a lefty in Fenway, like
who can go opposite field.
Right, yeah, exactly. You can use the monster too. So in theory, you should see better years. I just need to see more before I'm like, okay, this guy's definitely top 10. I think he's fringe right now, which is obviously where we have him.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely promising second half, and he's super young. He's only 24, so a worthy inclusion. Honestly, I didn't really have any other honorable mentions. I felt like, the order of first base was up for debate, but like I wasn't struggling on, oh damn, I'm leaving this guy out. I didn't really want to. Like it felt like a pretty clear cut 10 or 11 guys to choose from.
Yeah, I mean the only guy that I was like maybe was Brandon Belt because he had a really good year last year, but he's older, so
he's old.
Yeah, and he didn't even play the full year.
And this will be a popular one, and I know you'll agree with it, but like if I had to pick one guy currently outside the top 10 who would be in the top 10 next year, like project, it would be Vinny P.
Yeah, no, Vinny P. Just because of the injury, I didn't want to include him, but yeah, good to mention him because if he comes back strong, he's also a great hitter, great player. So I love him. So I hope that is the case.
And if he continues to hit in Miami the way he did after the trade, Josh Bell is going to be back on this list.
Yeah, that's true. Bell was excellent down the stretch. It was just that. Yeah, sometimes when guys go to a different league, they struggle, and he came back to the NL and with pitchers that he's more familiar with, and it clearly showed. So
got to face the Nats, and things worked themselves out.
It sparked them for sure. I think those are pretty much the only honorable mentions, though. But I tell you what, when we get to second base, I got about 5 or 6 because it was really tough ranking them. But we'll get to that in another episode.
Yep, for sure. All right, that does it for this episode. Be sure to comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, comment below. Let us know what you thought of our rankings. If you're listening to this on the podcast form, be sure to check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, review, all that good stuff. Be sure to check us out on TikTok at District Baseball, all spelled out. That's relatively new. We're posting videos there pretty much daily, all different types of baseball content. And it's just an actually kind of fun time on TikTok. Much more fun than I realized.
Yeah, it's a little bit fun.
It would be. I think Twitter's just such a cesspool that I'm like, oh, you actually can sometimes have fun on social media. So it's, very rare, but follow us on TikTok. And of course, like I mentioned, you can follow us on Twitter too at District BSB. That does it for this episode. We will be back next week talking middle infield. Later, guys.
See ya.